This weekend, our first and second readings kind of line up with each other in a similar theme, which doesn't happen very often. And that theme is allowing weaknesses that we experience to serve us, to help us to transform it, or allow suffering to be redeemed for good. We hear in that first reading from Isaiah, the Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity. And then we hear, because of his affliction, he shall see the light in fullness of days. Through his suffering, my servant shall justify many. So that idea that suffering is not just for the sake of suffering, but that it can be transformed. But that sometimes, it's been my experience rather recently, that takes some work. Because sometimes infirmity can just simply get you down. And I realize that there's many people that have much bigger infirmities to deal with than I do. Just this morning, Gene shared with me that he just lost his beloved sister, Cecil. Cecil Klosner Wortman just passed away last night. And so our sympathy, I think I can speak for everyone here, that our prayers and our sympathy, Gene, goes with you and your family for this infirmity of types that you are experiencing. And it was a great infirmity that she struggled with and finally eventually succumbed to. Also just heard right before Mass that Joe and Jeannie Hauser aren't here because Jeannie's sister Ellen is unresponsive starting last night. So she spent the entire night with her. So our prayers go out to all those who experience infirmity. But it's that reminder that it can be redeeming. And this is how I've experienced it recently. So just a couple of weeks ago when I started to go down again in energy, just feeling awful again, the chemo voice came back, right? That sexy chemo voice. Remember last week? Yeah. I was just started to throw a pity party for myself. Okay? I'll admit that. And you know the best pity parties are when you don't invite anybody else. Right? Because other people, they come and they ruin it. Right? They pull you out of a pity party. That's what they tend to do. And so a really good pity party is where you don't let anybody else there. So I was attempting to throw a really good one for myself, okay? But then the Spirit came and just really suggested to me that I offer what I was experiencing, offer it up. And what really came to me was this 14-year-old girl in California, the niece of Kathy Jenkins Walsh, the daughter of Kathy's little sister Sarah, 14 years old, has a much worse cancer than I do. And so I felt that call to just really end the pity party and offer up what I was experiencing, that she might have strength. And right after I did that, I was flooded with the reminder of my friends up in on the Omaha reservation that had that sweat lodge ceremony for me at the beginning of this journey. They went into that sweat lodge and suffered and prayed, and they said they were offering that so that I would have the strength when I needed it most. Again, talk about ruining a pity party, right? Just pulled me right out of that. And that's what I believe that Jesus is calling James and John to do in our gospel. To stop focusing on themselves. Right? They come up to him and go, okay, teacher, we want you to do whatever we ask you to do. And by the way, there's a red flag, right? I mean, there's a red flag for all of us. But Jesus invites them to stop focusing on what they wanted and encourage them to be servants. Don't worry about serving yourself, but serve others. And when we do that, we're brought out of ourselves. Yesterday morning, I was reading a little section of one of the writings from Vatican II. When we were together on Monday and Tuesday with the Archbishop, the clergy conference, he shared with us that he is doing a project for Chris McGregor, her online blog, or what I think it's a blog, whatever, her website, Discerning Hearts, invited him to do something on the documents of Vatican II. And so he said, I decided I better go back and reread them. So refresh his memory. And so he encouraged all of us to do it because he said, wow, there's so much goodness. There's so much in those documents of Vatican II. And so, trying to brown nose the Archbishop, I went ahead and read myself. Incidentally, by the way, I don't know, you all probably don't realize this, but I do believe I am the first post-Vatican II priest of the Archdiocese of Omaha. I really do believe that, okay? Now you might think, wait a minute, weren't you ordained in like 1992? And wasn't the end of the Vatican Council, Second Vatican Council, in 1965? But when did it end? December 8th, 1965. And when was I born? December 20th, 1965. So, technically, I do believe those 12 days, no other priest has been born in those 12 days. And I think I can hold on to that for the rest of my life. Okay, so I do have that going for me, which I will wear as a badge of honor. All right, so this comes from the document, The Church in the Modern World. And I think the Latin is, I think it's Gaudium et Spes, I think is the Latin for that document. By the way, this was written back in the 1960s when everyone knew that men were far superior, right? But I'm going to go ahead and change that language, okay, so that the language doesn't get in your way, okay? All right. Speaking about the church. As she pursues her appointed goal of bringing salvation to all, the church not only communicates the divine life to humankind, but also in some measure reflects the light of that life over the whole world. She does this especially through her work of restoring and enhancing the dignity of the human person, of strengthening the fabric of human society, and of enriching the daily activity of people with a deeper meaning and importance. The church believes that in this way she can make a great contribution through individual members and the community as a whole toward bringing a greater humanity to the family of humanity and to its history. So it's saying here that the church not only communicates the divine life to us, but also at the same measure reflects the light of life. We are called, as the church, to reflect the light of life for the whole world. And we're called to do that as individual members, but as a community as well. Right? And so we do that by going and ruining pity parties, okay? We do that in so many different ways. And I was reflecting on this yesterday morning, and be honest with you, I was filled with gratitude for being a part of this parish family. Because so many of you get this. So many of you have heeded this call. And we continue to strive to grow. We continue to strive to grow together in doing this as a community, as we're called to. One of the ways that Pope Francis has called us to do that is to care for our common home. And we've decided to do that by some simple ways, some a little bit bigger ways. We started with composting. We're starting, our green team has encouraged us to learn more and more about how to recycle. So we go into composting, and now we're taking a leap of faith and saying we're going to go into solar, right? We're going to provide 2 of the first electric car charging stations in North Omaha. And actually downtown, I've learned they don't have hardly any of them either. So we're going to lead the way. And we're going to invite others to do the same. Incidentally, our fundraising is going really well. So if you want to be a part of this, jump on board. Okay? There'll be more about that later. But we're also called, as the Archbishop has called us to, last year he gave us this big goal of being a missional community, right? A missional parish, which basically means coming to know Jesus Christ for ourselves, but then inviting others. And we do that not only for Catholics. We don't do that just for those of us who come and sit here, but we are called to do that where we are. That means in this neighborhood. We're continually called to invite our neighbors not to necessarily become Catholic, but to invite them to this light, this life of light, to transform, to reflect the beauty of God's love for us upon them, with them. So, that's what we're called to. And so let us continue to reflect on how it is that we're called out of ourselves. Called out of whatever infirmity, whatever obstacle, whatever it is that keeps us focusing on ourselves. We're invited to go out from that and to continue to help others to see the beauty that God reveals to us.